Welcome to Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. I'm your host, Jill Jardine, Master's in Counseling Psychology, longtime astrologer, psychic healer, and yogi. Welcome to the episode on the nodes of the moon. The nodes of the moon are changing signs on January 19th, 2022 to Scorpio and Taurus until July of 2023. The lunar nodes are a karmic axis in astrology, and when they change signs, it sets the tone for the collective karmic lessons for the next 18 months. Stay tuned to find out what that means for you. Welcome to the podcast on the nodal axis of Taurus and Scorpio and what that means for each sign and the groups that have that placement in their natal charts. In this episode, I'm going to discuss the significance of the lunar nodes in astrology and why it is important to know when they shift signs. The lunar nodes switch signs on January 19th from Gemini and Sagittarius into Taurus and Scorpio. The nodes of the moon have been transiting Gemini and Sagittarius, the South Node in Gemini and the North Node in Sagittarius since June 4th, 2020. The lunar nodes will now travel through the polarities of Taurus and Scorpio. The lunar nodes are shifting into the North Node in Taurus and South Node in Scorpio. This is the money axis in astrology. Yep, we are going to see big shifts in financial markets, including cryptocurrency, from January 19th, 2022 through July 2023. I'm happy to see the nodes switch polarities. The nodes of the moon have been transiting Gemini and Sagittarius with the South Node in Gemini and North Node in Sag since June 4th, 2020. This has given rise to our current climate of polarity and divisiveness. First, in 2020, it was political polarities of pro-Trumpers versus anti-Trump, Republicans versus Democrat, etc., etc. So we were bombarded with rhetoric and diatribe from both sides of the political fences. In 2021, the Gemini North Node polarizing turned into division over the vaccines. This wasn't aligned with political persuasion as much as philosophies of health sovereignty over dictates of those in power making health decisions for individuals. During the transit of the nodes in Gemini and Sagittarius, there were distortion of truth and facts. Sagittarius represents cosmic truth, and Gemini is more of man-made media perpetuated truth. Gemini is a dualistic sign in astrology. Think of good twin, bad twin. Gemini's shadow is the silver-tongued one, or a white liar, or con man, salesman who will do anything to make the sale. So during the transit of the North Node in Gemini, the populace was being sold realities perpetuated by the Gemini mainstream media that weren't necessarily true or validated, and certainly weren't time-tested. Or simply, we could say this was the cycle of disinformation. The Sagittarian truth seekers or truth speakers were ostracized or censored, and their experience and wisdom was denied from being shown through mainstream media. The eclipses in 2020 and 2021 also occurred in the signs of Gemini and Sagittarius, which eclipsed the truth and facts even more. The good news is the lunar nodes are switching to the North Node in Taurus and the South Node in Scorpio on January 19th, 2022, which are the money signs in astrology, specifically indicating our personal or collective values. This will affect money markets and people's value systems. What is really important in life? Time and freedom and soul pursuits can be more valuable than money. And as we're seeing in the great resignation of people leaving their jobs in pursuit of something that gives them joy and purpose, in the next 18 months, we will see the next phase of the great resignation as people do what they love and the money will follow, or following your bliss. Welcome to the nodes in Scorpio and Taurus. Scorpio rules death and rebirth, so we will see many people literally dying, leaving their bodies, or figuratively dying to their old selves to rebirth themselves anew. Scorpio wants to get to the core of an issue and won't take any BS. It will dredge up lies and scandals that were glossed over during the transit of the lunar nodes through Gemini and Sagittarius. Scorpio is the seeker and researcher who will get to the bottom of things. We'll certainly see many scandals revealed of past situations that weren't resolved and new clandestine or hidden secrets popping up in the media. How do you like that one, Prince Andrew? Scorpio also has a connection with the other side. A lot of mediums have strong Scorpio in their charts. So that has to do with what happens when we die, what's on the other side. So we'll be seeing more of a focus in society about the process of death and dying and life after death. So, very interesting because, somebody's midwifed into birth in a body. Well, there'll be a focus or a shift to really being aware and conscious of helping people shift or midwife out of their bodies. It will be a very interesting time. We'll see more people interested in the occult, which is what Scorpio rules, or I don't like that word so much, the metaphysical or hidden secret information. And Scorpio is a very powerful healing sign as well. Some of the most powerful healers I've met have had strong Scorpio in their chart. So we will see an interest in healing and getting to the core of health issues instead of glossing over with a quick fix of a pill or a jab. Scorpio says go into your subconscious, into your shadow, and rally that inner healing or inner healer to really work in a subconscious, deep way with healing the physical body as well as the emotional and psychological. Scorpio is a sign that rules psychology. So, as some of us who have been alternative health practitioners and healers for many years know, that the physical body is the last place that the illness shows up. It has existed in the emotional, mental, or spiritual body before it gets into the dense physical. Speaking of dense physical, Taurus, the opposite polarity, where the North Node is transiting, is a very earthy sign on so many levels. It is an earth sign, as are its star mates, Virgo and Capricorn. And Taurus is all about show me the money, show me the proof. But Taurus is the opposite polarity of Scorpio. So what you see is what you get. And the North Node is transiting through Taurus. So Taurus, unlike Scorpio, who will see things dissipate, dissolve, and crumble and become the proverbial phoenix rising out of the ashes, Taurus doesn't like dissolution. Taurus wants solid foundations and doesn't want to have to rebuild. Scorpio will crumble foundations as it reveals shadow content, both personally and collectively. Taurus rules finances, and we will see issues of scarcity or lack, and the opposite of opulent displays of wealth and privilege. The discrepancies between the haves and have nots will be amplified during this 18-month cycle. So the nodes transit through the same signs every 18 and a half to 19 years. So we can best understand what's going to go down during this lunar nodal cycle in Taurus and Scorpio by seeing when did they last transit. So the last time that the North Node was in Taurus and the South Node was in Scorpio was from April 15th, 2003 through December 26, 2004. So basically half of 2003 and all of 2004. Think back to what was happening in your life then. What were your gains? What were your losses? What were your transformations? I'm going to give you a moment to ponder that. The Taurus North Node, Scorpio South Node cycle that preceded that was from September 12th, 1984 through April 6th, 1986. Think about that. Perhaps you even incarnated during that time. So you're having something called the lunar nodal return. And then there's the group that was born from February 20th, 1966 through August 19th, 1967. Again, their nodal return. And finally, August 3rd, 1947 through January 26th, 1949. So again, think back to what was going on in your life during any of those years if you were alive. And more importantly, if you are born during one of these previous Taurus Scorpio nodal cycles, you are having your nodal return. And this is a very significant time for you on a personal level. You are returning to your soul and rediscovering your soul mission. If you haven't fulfilled your dharma, Sanskrit word for life purpose, this is a wake-up call. Circumstances, situations, and people in your life will change to get you on the right path. This is sometimes a very auspicious time when the unrealized potential bursts forth and opportunities arise out of the blue or in a predestined way. The nodal return years are truly a time of destiny and soul revelations. They occur at approximately 18 and a half to 19 years old, between 36 and 37 years old, 55 to 56 years old, and 74 to 75 years old. And if you live that long, 93 to 94 years old. So if you are having a nodal return, pay attention in those 18 months. So in this case, what's going to happen for you between January 2022 and July of 2023? There'll be many soul awakenings. So pay attention. It goes without saying that those who have sun signs in Taurus and Scorpio will be affected by the lunar nodes transiting over their natal sun between January 19th, 2022 and July 2023. Also, there are many who have other planets located in Scorpio or Taurus, so this is a good time to check with your favorite astrologer, Jill Jardine, to see how you will be affected by the nodes in the next 18 months. You also will want to know what houses in your natal chart do Taurus and Scorpio have rulership over. All very important information to be informed about so you can take advantage of this time in your own way, enhancing your personal astrological signatures. The eclipses occurring in the next 18 months will also affect the signs Scorpio and Taurus. In other words, they will occur in those signs. The lunar nodes are always involved in eclipse patterns as the nodes swallow the sun or moon. In Vedic astrology, the North Node is called Rahu, and the South Node is called Ketu. During eclipses, Rahu or Ketu swallow the sun or moon or both, as in a solar eclipse. Eclipses are shadowy times, and Rahu and Ketu are the shadow archetypes of what lurks in the subconscious of a person or the collective unconscious. The story of Rahu and Ketu in the Vedic scriptures throws some light on how the lunar nodes are subconscious elements that seep into our consciousness or that lurk in the background. Get ready for story time. Here's a brief synopsis of the story of the lunar nodes from the Vedic scriptures. When the Asuras, known as the demons, and Devas, the angels, goddesses, gods, churned the ocean, Amrita was produced. Amrita is the divine nectar of immortality. Demons stole this Amrit, so Lord Vishnu, the preserver, God in the Hindu pantheon, took incarnation in the form of a beautiful damsel, Mohini, and tried to please and distract the Asuras or demons in order to take back the Amrita. On receiving the Amrit back, Mohini, Vishnu disguised, came to the Devas to distribute it to them. Svarbhanu, one of the asuras or demons, changed his appearance to a deva to obtain some portion of the Amrit. However, Surya, the sun, and Chandra, the moon, realized that Svarbhanu was an asura, a demon, and not one of the devas. Knowing this, Lord Vishnu severed Svarbhanu's head with his discus, the Sudarshana chakra, and cut it off. So this demon's head was severed, and even though his head and body became separated, they remained immortal as a separate entity. Because before his head was cut off, the demon managed to drink a drop of the nectar from the Amrita. So the head of the demon is known as Rahu, and the headless body is Ketu. Since then, Rahu and Ketu constantly chase the sun and moon for revenge, as they are the cause of separating the head and body of the demon Svarbhanu. It is popular belief that when they succeed in catching the sun and moon, they swallow them, causing a solar or lunar eclipse. But they can't hold them for long, and the sun and moon emerge again intact, as they also had nectar and are immortal. And that's the story of how Rahu and Ketu, the nodes of the moon in Vedic astrology, came to be. So we see that they are shadowy figures and were a demon that had swallowed a bit of Amrita. Thank goodness that Vishnu, the preserver god of the Hindu pantheon, threw his discus and cut their head off. But they still do some damage here. That's why in Vedic astrology, eclipses are considered very malefic. So we find that it is through myth, storytelling, or as they call it in India, Harikatha, that we can better understand phenomenons in astrology and other sacred sciences. Now let's discuss the nodes in mathematical astrological science. The lunar nodes are a mathematical point between the sun and the moon. The nodes rest along an axis, giving us a north node and a south node, which are a polarity, meaning opposite signs. In Western astrology, the north node represents our destiny in this lifetime, or our mission, or what we incarnated to achieve in this embodiment, sometimes viewed as our future or our growth edge and what we are working towards in this life. The South Node represents our past strengths or weaknesses, karma from past lives or our family, our default position, or what is easier for us to maintain, and the foundation we are building upon. In Vedic astrology, the symbolism of the North and South Node is a bit different. The North Node Rahu represents what we are here to learn in this life, forcing soul growth. Rahu tends to be more worldly or material in nature. We take on the physicality of embodiment and thus have to learn the lessons of being in a physical form. With Rahu cycles in our natal chart, or as we have their transits, we have to remember we are spiritual beings having a material experience and not the other way around, lest we get swallowed by Rahu's constant urge for more, more, more. Rahu can be competitive, materialistic, only looking for worldly gains and values. Rahu wants a little bit of everything all of the time, just like the lyrics of the Bo Burnham song, Welcome to the Internet. A little bit of everything all of the time. Very Rahuvic. Ketu, or the South Node, on the other hand, is more spiritual nature, seeking moksha or liberation, and rejecting worldly pursuits like relationships and making money. Ketu is more myopic, leading to single-mindedness, which can lead to fanaticism. Ketu wants enlightenment. If the Ketuvic impulse connects with a religion, a group, or a cult, it can make for a true believer in a cause or group, which can lead to fanatical or violent behavior for the cause. But generally, Ketu wants freedom, enlightenment, and Ketu will walk away from many worldly responsibilities or obligation. Just think of the young 20-something who decides they don't want to be working in the world and they go off to live on an ashram only to find that they're missing quite a bit of life. The signs that the lunar nodes travel and the connections they make while transiting those signs influence the collective unconscious and worldly affairs for those 18 months. While the nodes in our natal chart can carry personal meaning, the position of the nodes can also indicate our collective karma and the lessons we are working through on a global level. And this is why it becomes important for us to know what's going to happen in our world with a shift in nodes. On January 19th, 2022, the lunar nodes shift into the sign of Taurus and Scorpio, where they remain for approximately 18 months. This shift of the nodes indicates a new collective karmic lesson that will unfold. And as I said earlier, Scorpio and Taurus rules the money axis. So we're going to really see some shifts in how the financial world collectively and personally unfolds and develops. Certainly, people will get much more conscious of where they spend their time and energy. And again, as I said, what their value system is. So, with the North Node transiting in the sign Taurus, it indicates new energy that we're trying to cultivate in our life. And being in Taurus, what can give solid foundations? What can be steady, as represented by the totem animal of Taurus, the bull? How can we have consistency and steadiness specifically in our financial lives? That will be looked at in depth during the next 18 months. When the North Node moves into Taurus, we are encouraged to embrace steady and grounded qualities in our own lives. Taurus is a fixed sign, and it's the fixed earth sign. So, of all the fixed signs, Aquarius, the fixed air, Leo, the fixed fire, and Scorpio, the fixed water, it doesn't like change. Taurus wants predictability and knowing what comes next. Taurus seeks to bring more structure into our lives. It doesn't want things breaking down. On a collective level, the North Node moving into Taurus indicates that it's time to make peace with situations that have unfolded over the last years. Taurus just wants to go out in the woods, connect with nature, sit down in a sacred grove and meditate. Doesn't want complication. It wants to get back to the earth, get grounded, connect to nature, and feel good in their body. In fact, Taurians are hedonists to some extent, as they like to follow the feel good. What feels good? What tastes good? How can I indulge myself? Taurians sometimes can overindulge because it feels so good until they get that hangover the next morning. So, Taurus is not going to like the changes, nor is fixed sign Scorpio, fixed water. But it's time to work with changes that have unfolded so that you can feel more grounded and stable. At the same time, you have to let go through the scorpionic process of release. Taurus is about abundance and connecting with abundance around us, despite what might be happening in the world and what's going on in our lives. Seek the simplistic, grounded reality. And looking at your life, how can you tap into more abundance or opportunities and feel supported by the universe? That's the Taurian goal. Make it simple, stupid, or keep it simple, stupid. Miss or kiss. Taurus is ruled by Venus, especially the qualities of Venus that relate to feelings of self-worth. So everyone is going to be looking at how can I feel more sense of self-worth and how our relationship with what our worth is dictates how our life is unfolding, including decisions and actions we are making. So everybody, it's a good 18 months to work on self-worth and know you are worthy of receiving more. The energy of Taurus rules over our planet Earth, so topics relating to the environment, the climate, sustainability, and the condition of the planet will be highlighted. We'll have an ecological renewal, I believe, and kind of like what was going down in the 70s, we will have a movement back to the earth and recycling and how can we use our resources. In fact, the time that the nodes were in Taurus and Scorpio in the 60s, mid 60s, February 1966 to August 1967. This were the beginnings of the Earth consciousness movement. Thank you to the hippies, Woodstock, and all the back to earth crunchy granola movements that kicked off at that time. So we have all that to look forward. Financial industries are also ruled by Taurus. So there's going to be a lot of shifting around that, including the rise of cryptocurrency and shifts and changes in the traditional markets. With the North Node in Taurus, attitudes around money and the value of money will change. So this nodal placement has been activated already during the following eclipses. The one that occurred on November 19th, 2021, we had a lunar eclipse in Taurus. We're having another eclipse affecting Taurus, and that's on April 30th, 2022, which is a solar eclipse in the sign Taurus. These are all pivotal dates when the Taurian energy will be triggered. November 8th, 2022 is a lunar eclipse with the moon in Taurus. And October 28th, 2023 is a lunar eclipse with a full moon in Taurus. So this will trigger issues around security, self-worth, prosperity. How can you make more stable and supportive structures in your life? Now let's talk about the South Node transiting in Scorpio. So, as I mentioned about Scorpio, it's going to be about what have we already processed? What have we released? What have we cleared that we can now integrate? What psychological, emotional healing processes and physical healing processes have we undergone that now can be integrated? The South Node represents what we can't forget and what we have to honor in order to achieve the next step of our destiny. So there's going to be a lot of deep shadow work going on for the next year and a half, both collectively and personally, as people purge the depths of their psyches and subconscious to get to the root of their own neuroses, phobias, and issues. The South Node in Scorpio honors process, honors purging subconscious shadow work. So we can also appreciate any of that we've done. It also is going to show new ways of healing, how we can heal on psycho-emotional, spiritual levels, how all the four levels, spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical, can be worked through. Scorpio forces us to go deep and jump into the psyche, swim beneath the seaweed to retrieve the gems in the treasure chest at the bottom of our psyche. What we'll see collectively is a shift in power structures taking place. Scorpio's ruling planet is Pluto, the planet of power, and Pluto has been very strong going through Capricorn these last years, breaking down structures including business, government, medical system, and corporate life. We'll see this dissolution of these structures continue in all the structures we held sacred. We'll see there's major breakdowns and power shifts and power plays continuing. Interestingly enough, the USA is having their Pluto return starting in 2022, while the South Node is transiting through Scorpio and the North Node in Taurus. So we're going to see some major upheavals and shifts. Many also believe that we're going to have many earth changes and shifts that are going to affect people, obviously on the physical plane, but also with major crisis and disaster. People step up and they have awakenings and consciousness shifts. And Scorpio certainly wants consciousness shift, as does Pluto, its ruling planet. So these will probably be some very intense times, but on a personal level, you can achieve goals and get to a new place of personal fulfillment, abundant safety, and security. On a personal level, notice the themes of this nodal placement when they're activated on the following eclipses in Scorpio. May 16th, 2022, it's a lunar eclipse with the full moon in Scorpio. October 25th, 2022, is a solar eclipse with the sun and moon in Scorpio. And May 5th, 2023, will be a lunar eclipse with the full moon in Scorpio. So noticing what gets triggered during these times and what happens in your life. Interestingly enough, with the shift of the nodes to Taurus, the North Node will align with Uranus in Taurus, big change maker. And this is going to happen in July of 2022. The North Node and Uranus will align, which will make some unstable energy, but also bring a lot of awakenings. I think there'll be a lot of earth changes happening and just shocks and surprises in the status quo. So get ready for that in July of 2022. There's a lot to look forward in the next year and a half, so put on your seatbelt. Some of the things that could happen during the North Node and South Node in Scorpio are major changes in the financial industry. The digital cryptocurrencies are going to rise up and be an acceptable form of exchange. Personally, people are going to be looking at their own values and what they really want in their life, what is worthwhile, where do I want to put my time, energy, money. There will be an awakening and a movement of self-worth. We're looking at more sustainable solutions for the planet, and we'll see a rebirthing of the environmental awakening of the planet. The government and power, there's going to be big shifts in what's going to happen with power brokers when it comes to business, corporations, government. We're going to see people realizing that they are the power themselves, and they may not want to be controlled by outside power elites. Very powerful time. People will be going deep to seek their personal truth and try to align their lives with that. So we're in for an exciting time. I hope you enjoyed this episode on the lunar nodes changing signs to Taurus and Scorpio. Make sure you share, download, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review. This is Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, sending you healing, nodal vibrations through the quantum field.